Free your mind. Open your heart. Tap into your power. You're listening to The Multidimensional Mother with Alex Troniak.
Hello and welcome to The Multidimensional Mother. My name is Alex Troniak. Today we have a wonderful woman named Beth Moore, and I'm going to read you her bio right away just so you know who she is and what she's about right off the gates. So, mom, bestie, and soul guide, Beth Moore is a wife, a mother, and a visionary. She is a sacred space holder and a gifted communicator. Beth supports women pre-baby and beyond to claim motherhood as the path to their most radiant life. She hosts the Unmasking Motherhood Podcast. She created the Imperfect Moms Club, and she offers soulful private coaching to help moms reconnect to themselves. I am so excited and honored to have Beth on my podcast. Beth, welcome.
Thank you. I just got teary whenever you read the bio because you just thank you. Thank you for seeing me and having me on.
I'm so excited to have you here. Beth had me on her podcast, we think over a year ago. And what is time? And my podcast is called The Multidimensional Mother, and I'm like, I need to have some powerful mothers on this podcast to shed light, to have interesting and expansive conversations. And you are an exceptional person and mother because not only are you a great mom and a beautiful human being, but you are also intentionally leading the way and creating space for moms to be imperfect and to show up and to come back to their light. Because if you have been a mom, you know that postpartum is real and it's everything. It's like it's exhausting and it's challenging, but it's the most sacred, beautiful, precious time as well. And you, through birth, you become a new person. So I would love to hear a bit of your story. How did you get to where you are today? The floor is yours. Take your time.
Get to where I am today with my vision for motherhood, keeping that
Yeah.
in mind. Yeah. Um, Goodness. I think a big shaper of my work is the depths to which I've had to go in my life that were not part of what I would have planned. I have, since I was a young kid, felt very different than other people and different than my family of origin and feel things so deeply. And was raised in an environment that loved me the best that it could, but ultimately didn't nurture me the way that my soul needed. And so by a very young age, I wanted to die. And have had many times where I felt so alone and wanted to be away from the pain of life. Didn't expect to go here on this journey, but I think that has really shaped my heart for wanting to meet people where they are, to meet them in the depths of their pain and their joy. And it's helped me be a space holder. There's nothing that the women that come to me could say, or a mom friend, or just anyone tell me that scares me. I'm like, we need to speak the scary things inside us. And so before I even started working with mothers, that path and that pain that turned into my story and the light that I have and my passion for people, people are crazy and they can annoy the shit out of me sometimes, but I love them and I don't want to give up on people. So that heart infuses the work that I do in the world, whether at my office job or with moms. And so, there's so many things I could say that led me to where I am, but in 2018, unexpectedly got pregnant. Really didn't see, this motherhood is the pathway for my life. And ironically, here I am, so damn excited and passionate about motherhood. And so it's been humbling. It's been never say never, folks, about anything because life has twists and turns. So, yeah, very humbled by motherhood. Unexpectedly got pregnant and went through some major, major changes that first year and a half that I don't know that I would recommend to anybody. And I'll just to give you a quick rundown, if you don't know my story, it was like got pregnant the year that I launched my coaching business, went back to school, but back to get a certification while working and running a church. No longer even am involved with the church. And so life, I deconstructed my faith, got pregnant, went full blown into motherhood, half genuine and pure, half looking back, born from this need to prove because I felt so unequipped to be a mom. So I was like, I'm going to go for all the things that I've ever heard that felt aligned, which was so beautiful, but like people pleasing, perfectionistic, like I have to prove something to others and myself that I can do this thing called motherhood, WTF. While I moved cross country, 22 hours away from friends and family, started over for 6 months with my husband. We took a travel nursing contract, moved back at almost 8 months pregnant, so ungrounding, like really tumultuous time to like leave your faith practice, leave your family of origin, get pregnant, launch a business, build a new community, move home, have a
Okay.
baby.
Now I'm
Like
understanding why you're like, it caused a spiritual awakening. I'm like,
that
well, it's
was,
a lot.
yeah. And you're just thrown into motherhood in the winter, like beautiful and also like, I lived in the Midwest. I back home now, but I had my son in St. Louis, Missouri in America. And there's not full blown winter, I feel like for you, but we get snow and ice and yeah. So it was darkness, literally, and like internally.
Mm.
But it awakened sides of myself that I didn't even know existed and brought back online parts of myself that I had stuffed down. So that happened. Was coaching women still, teaching Pure Barre. I taught fitness for 10 years. We have fitness girlies.
Yeah.
And we moved again back to Las Vegas, where we spent most of my pregnancy. And I'm going to make this really short, but if we decide we want to go into it, I'm open. By a year postpartum, I almost left motherhood altogether and chose to stay. And through that process, reclaimed my own identity as Beth, as mother. I asked to be called Elizabeth, my birth given name, for a season because it was the strong like reclamation of self that I was going through. And so that informed my work. And I could talk so much about why I'm passionate about motherhood and the rite of passage and, how far we've gone from honoring women, but I'll stop there. Cheryl.
Oh, um, it makes me emotional to hear about all of your story, because you've gone through so much, and to hear the points of like breakthrough for you when you were like reclaiming parts of yourself. I just hearing you say that you did that is such a beautiful thing. I want to know, there's a lot to go into there, but I want to know, what did you feel like when you said something came back online? Like, can you articulate that?
When I became a mom, it was like, maybe it's hormones, maybe it's like the fresh love and excitement of baby phase. But it was like these parts of me reawakened, and like I felt everything to an extreme. I'm already like a deep feeler, but as parts of protecting myself over the years, I had to shut down or reject parts of my identity that I was like, the world told me or the church told me or my family of origin, whatever didn't feel safe. And motherhood was just a great, here it all is again. And whether or not I wanted to feel it all, I was. And so I felt all parts of myself, my selfishness, my agony, my grief. I also turned on though, like my childlike spirit and my awe and wonder that was there, but kind of like murky.
Mm.
You have a fresh life that you're holding. It was just like
It
all
gives you the new eyes.
new eyes. Yeah. So that was really mind blowing. I did not know that would happen.
Wow.
But of course.
I'm so proud of you also, because I loved what you said about the way that you're able to meet moms without judgment because you've been through the ringer. You've
Yeah.
seen it all. And I just think that is so powerful that you are able to stand in your honesty and even say that, because So many women and moms have been through so much stuff, but they're not willing to talk about it. And they're not
Yeah.
willing to share and be vulnerable and say, like, this is how low it got. And so I'm like,
Well,
grateful. I'm really grateful for you. And I just see you as such a freaking lighthouse. And that's why we're here having this conversation, because I want to share that light. I want more people to hear your story.
yeah, I don't want to hide. And for a while, I was like, the world would be better off without me. And I felt that a few times because I just hard on myself. There's so many things that happen to get you to that point. But I don't believe that's true. And I do want to be here. And I do believe that people need to talk more. Who does it serve for me to stay quiet or for another mom to stay quiet? We
Yeah.
need each other. We need each other. So.
Yeah, the stories are opportunities of expansion, which is literally the whole reason why I'm having a podcast. Because I'm like, oh, I'm just talking to the people that I think are having interesting lives, that are willing to be honest and to share their stories so we can learn. So we can learn and grow, and
Hell yeah.
you can learn from other people's mistakes. It's a choice. You can do that. A couple of
Yeah.
things. You say family of origin. That's an interesting like
Oh,
way of saying that. Does that like mean anything else? Like I'm like, do you also have like an adoptive family, or is that just how you talk about your like,
that's
okay.
interesting because I don't normally, I guess I was meaning specifically from like my parents and the way I was raised, but no, not adopted.
Okay.
Parents were still together. Yeah.
And
Lived with
so
them
you grew up within the church. Which church?
Catholicism.
Okay.
And
And
like we're
you
heavily involved, not just like we went on Christmas and Easter, the term Creasters, like we at Catholic school,
yeah,
altar girl, like full blown, all
damn
the
it. Okay, do you want to share a bit of your journey with that? I know that people are hesitant to talk about religion, but I don't, the way I see spirituality is it's like so individual. We're all having our individual experience like with God or with whatever you connect with. And I like hearing people's stories because again, it opens doors, it opens possibilities and ideas. So
yes.
share a bit of your spiritual journey,
Sweet.
starting with Catholicism.
Yeah, I will say, like in 2018, I would not have been able to do this because I was going through a faith deconstruction from evangelicalism. So, just a little teaser, I faded from Catholicism into that. But, a lot of healing has happened. And so it's easier. And I'm able to talk about it really openly with love instead of like the pain and anger of like going through it. Because, yeah, Catholicism, I have mad respect for the practice and the rituals, and I think that they're really beautiful. I don't even want to get political and talk about some of the things, that I don't agree with. That's not the point. It's that the religion didn't feel like it fit me, right? And so I would go and I would show up, but it was more like the energy of it was very like that's I don't know, the chanting and my parents were so serious and it was strict and rule oriented. We couldn't eat 30 minutes before mass, communion, the sacred body. That just wasn't it just felt really restrictive to my spirit. And
Mm.
so I didn't know anything different, but I just hated going. And so by high school, I was like, I'm out of here. It
And you
was
went every week.
I had to go every week. Oh yeah, if not, you were sinning. You had to go confession and that whole vibe. Like I can understand and appreciate now in a way I didn't then, but I'm more of a free spirit and like more rebellious. So anything that felt restrictive and like I felt trapped and I was forced to do, especially something like that didn't really align with me, I just despised it. And so I stopped going in high school. And then throughout college, when I hit another really dark place, in the context of actually romantic relationships, I found this like cute little Christian book that a friend from high school had given me when she was like, I'm just gonna plant this seed for Beth because she's going through like bad guy after bad guy. But I like laughed at this book. And I found it in college during a dark time and was like, oh my God, this is what I need. And so I went full blown like born again Christian, if you're familiar with that ideology and
Yep.
that just a Christian path, evangelicalism. And it was really beautiful and pure and also came from a broken place when I found it. But it was what I needed. And I totally went full blown and like, I am a sinner. I need God to be right. And it was like the people pleasing good girl, eldest daughter syndrome went like full, found another thing to hold on to of like, this will fix me because I am broken. And I also grew up with that belief within my family, believing I was a problem. So it was almost like religion helped reinforce that, like, so it felt like, okay, this is safe because it's what I've been told my whole life, even though it felt beautiful and pure and there was like community and so much goodness too. But I was really involved with that for like about 6 years, even down to like, leading women's Bible studies and getting really fascinated about just identity, which will play in, maybe to our conversation later in the work I do with moms. But I became fascinated with identity and who we are, why we're here, what our purpose is in this lifetime, but through the Christian lens. And also was going to like all the conferences and like wanted to be a church leader in a female fashion. And then like was running a church in a way, like as a manager up until the time I got pregnant. Children's ministry, mission trips to Haiti, like all of it, all of it. But there started to be some questions like a couple years before I left. Didn't feel safe to leave. I didn't want to
Didn't feel safe to leave?
No, I didn't want to ruffle feathers. I didn't want to ask questions. But I started having internal conflict as I would see people that I admired or thought they were so on fire for the Holy Spirit, in the Christian terms that I was around, that I'm like, she's no longer going to church. She doesn't believe this anymore. Or this person left. It kind of started to make me wonder and question, but I was like, I'll just pray for them. They're troubled, like it was, but it got to me. And then working behind the scenes for a church, I saw some things that you wouldn't see had you not worked for a church. And while it was not a mega church and it was on a much smaller scale, it still didn't land right. A few of the things I had to like believe or do. And so when the time came that I got pregnant unexpectedly and was like running this church, and then we moved to Vegas, it was like I could have a clean break to figure out God outside of this box and like take a break. And I don't know that I would have done that. I mean, maybe a few years later, but I probably would have stuck along longer.
Interesting.
So that doesn't take me up to now, but that's that part of the journey.
Did you seek the same type of Christian church when you got to Vegas?
I thought that we might, because our worship leader at the church in St. Louis knew people at like big churches there. And we're like, oh, we'll just get plugged in while we're there for a few months and cool. And like my husband was a musician in the band and all that. And we're like, we'll find our church family. Never did. No desire. Couldn't do it. Went through like that dark night of the soul with my Christian church. And I did not come from divorced family, but I remember describing it as like, this felt like a divorce. Like it's what I was so involved in for 6 years in a different way than the Catholic Church. It became my identity. It became my family, everything I knew, and it felt safe. And so questioning it and like wrestling with it and leaving it, even for a season, felt really, really painful. And I remember describing it to a friend, like the deconstruction process felt like I was in an ocean that was like really turbulent, and I was just waiting in the darkness, like bobbing around, and I had no idea where to go, but it was a necessary part of the process, and it felt
Of course.
really vulnerable. Yeah. Took a few years to like not feel angry or bitter, and I don't know that people talk about, all this stuff
Wow.
there.
It's because it's such an upheaval of like not only your identity, but your reality
Yeah.
on like multiple levels. And that can be really scary. Like
Mhm.
any big change is such a big stress to the body. And then to additionally be moving through pregnancy and then birth. Really
Cross-country moves, launching a business. It was a lot. It was
So
too much.
from your early days of being a mom, when did you start to like realize that you're like, oh, I need to take this and share it and like give a bit of that story from going from like a darker place postpartum to how'd you start to see the light?
Yeah. Hmm. You know, before I reached my dark, dark place, like about a year postpartum, in the midst of the second move, third move, I mean, it's all, we moved when my son was 10 months old. You know, we were back home, had him back home in St. Louis. And then we moved back right before I hit a year to Vegas to stay, no longer travel nursing. So there was like a move to Vegas, then a move home during the pregnancy, then another move to Vegas about a
Wow.
year after. So it was just for context. Um, so the first few months, you know, just postpartum, I definitely feel like, and even in pregnancy, the awakening started to happen. It's all such an initiation that I was not expecting.
Mm.
But I feel like I've always been, or at least once I got involved in the evangelical faith, connected to spirit. You know, I would call it the Holy Spirit during church. I don't know that I was really tuned in during the Catholic time, but I definitely felt like that part of me came online and was real. And so something about pregnancy like tapped me into those like spidey senses of like spirit and nature and like literally you're creating life. So you're just like this frequency of creation and all of it, you know?
I love that
So
frequency of
all of we
creation.
are, you know, and I was like ratting out, is that the right word? Like nerding out, like this is so cool. Why is no one talking about it? And I'm just fanatical about stuff that I'm into. So I was like, oh my God, like this
People,
is so,
people,
I was like pregnancy and postpartum and motherhood are the best kept secret. Obviously, I hadn't gone full the trenches yet, but I still think all
yeah,
I'd ever heard was like the negative stories or like pregnancy sucked, birth was traumatic, motherhood's draining. And in so many ways, your marriage goes downhill, your finances. And I'm like, well, why would I want any of that? My body's going to be screwed up for life. I might die during childbirth. Like you just hear
the shit.
the shit shows. And so on top of that, there was other reasons where I was like, I don't know that motherhood's for me. So I was just like, wow, like really opening my eyes to see. Um, and then obviously postpartum has its struggles and you're questioning your whole identity and it's changing and I was resisting, but then moving again, you know, about a year postpartum, there's so much that led up to that, but like almost choosing to leave my family and being like, I don't think I'm cut out for this. This isn't what I wanted. Do I have it in me to actually mother? Tons of pressure on my mothering. I know moms can relate to that.
From yourself.
From self and society. But
Okay.
yeah, it ultimately is from inside.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of wanting to be a conscious parent is that I was hyper aware and have been since I was young and was put in therapy by my parents of like my shortcomings. So I was like constantly met with like, I'm messing this up. I don't have it in me. Lack of support around me. No one wanting to mother that I knew that wanted to mother the way I wanted to mother. So it just felt like isolation. And then there's hormones. I was nursing for a long time and I was all by myself and COVID hit. And I'm like, there were so many other things going on. My marriage was rocky. It was just a lot going on.
Recipe. That's a recipe for what you felt.
Yeah. You asked me though about coming to the light, because I'm like thinking about what led to the downturn. And the light came after I made the conscious decision to stay after almost leaving and being like, I'm not going to give up on this. And the message and the mission was born from that reclamation of self and really going all in
Mm.
and rebuilding the foundation for our family through the pain of almost leaving my marriage and almost like leaving motherhood behind. So that's obviously like feels like a really succinct way to put something that was like there's a lot more to the story, but I'm writing a book about that. So I'm like, I'll just share it in a
Yay.
memoir. Um,
Amazing.
yeah. Did that answer the question?
I
The
think, well, yeah, I want to like, I also want to know, like, what did it feel like when you were like, I made that shift. I've decided to stay. I've decided to reclaim myself. Like, what did it feel like and what actions came with reclaiming? because obviously
Yeah,
it's an intention is there, but then also there's a shift in behavior. And I think I want to
sure.
hear about that.
Yep. Yep. Um, well, one part of me still didn't feel capable. I'll just be real. Like I want this, but am I able? Am I capable? So that just reckoning with self. And then two, this deep desire to be devoted to motherhood as my spiritual practice, my viewing my child as my teacher, and that he came here not for me, but like he came here to show me another way and to open my eyes. I think children
Mm.
are such a gift. They remind us of why we came to earth. Like they remind us why we're alive and what it means to be human, and the awe and the reverence and the beauty and the messiness, and could talk about that for days, but really opening my eyes to see him and myself more clearly. Some of the things that did help me though were creating intentional community. You know, we were in the height of COVID, so it's a little interesting depending on where you lived and who you were around. But I knew I needed women around me. So
Mm.
even though that's challenging and it can be hard to build community, especially during that time and as a new mom and in a new city, that became part of the path of healing. And um, nature, I can't even begin to describe the the depth of connecting with Mother Nature and like writing poetry
Mm.
that helped me heal.
Those are really beautiful pillars. I love them. And I think they're so medicinal, each of them. When you say nature, Mother Nature, can you elaborate more on what does it look like to you to connect to nature?
Mm. Tell me if this makes sense to you. Like,
Okay.
because I'm a very sensitive being. Um, and then motherhood, like, almost turned that on even more.
Yeah.
Like, and then because I became a mother, I created life. When I step out into nature, it's almost impossible to.
Oh, sorry, you clicked out there. It's almost
Sorry.
impossible to what?
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Okay. I thought I lost you for a second. When I step out into nature, it's almost impossible not to hear her talking to me. Like, I feel like I commune with her just by being in her presence. And I want more of it. Like it's like this, that's one of my spiritual practices is like walking through the woods and like receiving her messages, touching the ground and like feeling the presence and the grounding and like literally looking at like even little plants moving or the way a tree sways. Like I feel it, I hear it, and I know that that is a part of healing for humanity. Try
You
not to.
articulated that so well, and it is also so nice to hear another human being experience nature like that. Because I 100%
Mm.
like I started talking to trees in the last year,
Yeah.
and
So
when
wise.
someone told me to like before you go and hug a tree to like put your hand up and just ask for permission. Be like, "Can I hug you? Can I come in and touch you?" And it allowed for the opportunity for me to hear. And so I would literally listen and I noticed that every tree has a different voice. Like I'm like, "Oh, you're all got
Mm.
souls in there." So then it would be like, "Yes," or it'd be like, "Yes." Big deep tree, right? And then I'd hug it and I'd have my third eye on it and my hands on it, my whole body pushed against it like superstar. And um
Love it. I can envision it right
just a
now.
real hug and I'm like, wow, this feels just as good as hugging a person. Do you notice? I don't know if you hug trees.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Dropping.
like nature. Nature, I think it wants us. Like she, I mean, I'm speaking for nature. I'm like, I think she wants a relationship with
Have you
us.
seen those videos where people are like, come here, touch my hand. Just lower your branch.
No,
Okay,
but
here you go.
you showed me the frequency things that there's like tools and instruments where you can hear the frequency and the song of trees or,
Yes, I want to
and I
get
was
one
like,
of
this is
those. Those
so
look
cool.
so cool. And yeah, the sound, very cool. But like,
Yeah.
I've been seeing videos of people like basically going a few inches away from a tree and just being like, okay, follow my voice. You can come touch my shoulder. Come on now. And you like literally encourage it and it'll come and go, oh, touch it. I've done it a few times
Inches
now.
or something?
Yeah, like if a tree's like 3 inches from your shoulder, just and I'll just say, "Hey, come here. You can touch my shoulder." And it's just like an exercise in talking
Oh
to
my
a
gosh.
tree. I even showed my daughter, and yeah, it's just a fun practice. Give it a go. But
I'm
then
gonna give it
when you
a go.
start to realize just how conscious everything is, I loved how you described your connection to nature. And
Thank you.
you were kind of I haven't actually like formally asked a question regarding your intuition, but I like how you're talking about you being a sensitive person. Do you feel like you have, like you're saying you can hear Mother Earth, do you feel like you are clairaudient, like you can hear spirit? What what
I,
does that come through like? What's your journey with intuition so far been like?
hmm. I've never like formally looked into, I know what you're talking about. I've never formally like heard from someone. Maybe I don't need to, and that's my like insecure side saying like,
Right?
no, one
Someone
like
needs to
told
tell
me
us what you
you're
are.
this. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Really
Um,
working through that too.
but I feel like deeply connected to beings and people and self and inner self. And I feel like I do receive messages, but I've never had any formal training. But that my time in Christianity helped me kind of like, I mean, you had to like work through, am I being gaslit or am I,
Mhm.
from my experience, not everyone's, but it like, is this truth or is this capital T truth from, is it
Mhm.
man-made truth or is it spirit truth? But I did feel that, and it's like undeniable when you do. Um, but yeah, my intuition, that has been such a rocky process because of, now that you've heard some of my background and struggle with like self-hate and self-trust and impulsivity and just, troubling stuff from my past to where it's been this journey of like slowly stepping one foot at a time, one decision at a time, closer to like being my authentic self, following my values, and trusting the nudges and listening to my body. Pregnancy was a big part of that rebirth. Leaning all the way in to just feeling her and loving her, my body, in a way I hadn't before. So I think that that's a superpower for moms is our intuition.
Mm.
And doctors are great, therapists are great, coaches are great, leaders are great, and they ultimately, unless they're guiding you back to you, they can be a crutch. You know what I mean?
100.
So, yeah.
I do think I feel like that's one of my potent messages that I'm like, yeah, whatever you do, just develop your intuition because we are entering a time of increased difficulty to determine what is truth on the outside.
So
Being
much.
like, well, AI can do fucking anything. They can create any scene you want. So how can you tell what's actually going on? And so to develop your own inner compass is your intuition. And it just starts off by just listening to those little nudges of turn here, don't go there. That
Yeah.
guy's not good. That's the starting points of intuition. Yeah, super. I love hearing about everyone's intuition journey, because I do think we are all capable of, you hear of psychics and people who channel and people, we're all capable of like the vast range of consciousness abilities. I believe that. And it's whether or not we are choosing to tune into it, practice it, hone in those skills, and believe that we actually have the ability to do them. And then, yeah, what you said, you're like, well, no one's actually like diagnosed me, like as like a clairvoyant. Like, and here's the thing, no one's gonna,
Yeah.
like, no one's gonna. And I've only just started to connect with the fact that I'm like, oh, I've been able to hear for a while. Like I
Mm,
had this memory of, um,
yeah.
and this voices come to me like people who have passed or like higher self. I even have like, I want to talk about Elizabeth April, but even like the Galactic Federation have come through,
Yeah.
but they only come through when I'm quiet, when I'm in meditation, which is another like the gateway. You need to do this. You need to sit in quiet. But I realized that I'm like, oh, after I would do yoga, not long after my grandfather passed, I could hear his voice, but I thought it was just my imagination. but it was
Sure.
his voice and he was telling me stuff. So I'm like over 10 years later being like, that was real, and
Hmm.
validating that for myself because no one's going to come and validate your intuition or your gifts. So, I wanted to ask a question. There's lots of
I have
questions.
something can I add something really quick?
Yes.
So sorry to cut you off. I realize there's two other practices that have helped me that are newer, like as in the last 3 years, but yeah. One of them is journaling to goddess. And that is a practice of like, I thought you'd appreciate it. So I was like, it's
Celia.
never something I did before. But Sarah Jenks is a teacher.
I know
Follow
her. I love her.
Instagram, and her and her business partner Kelly were like doing it, and I was like, I want to try this. So you like quiet yourself and like you can just type or journal it out. But I love that as a practice when I need to like really tap in. And there's always something epic, but really love tapping into like our highest self. And I do that in my practices with moms because I think it's a tool that we all need to be able to access. So that became a foundational part of my coaching with moms is like, you need to connect with your inner guide. But then I also do the goddess, yeah, the goddess stuff if I want to go more spiritual and less from me, go to somewhere else. And then mushrooms. I know we've talked about it. I don't know if you want to include this in here, but I've
Jump
only
on, please share.
do.
It's important conversations.
It is. I am literally have never smoked, well, had it into this time, never even smoked weed or a cigarette. But during that dark night of the soul year where I almost left my marriage and motherhood behind, my husband had talked about it and I was like, I'm ready. Like that's a whole conversation. The bad experiences with mushrooms can be like, you're in a bad place. It will bring all that shit up.
Yep.
You don't have someone there like to help you. If it's a brand new experience, it can be so scary. And also like the setting, there's ways, I'm not just saying go do mushrooms. Like, no, like the set and the setting, all important. So
And,
just saying,
and intention.
and intention. Yes. And so, I've only done a few like journeys. I've done some microdosing. Yes, girl.
I literally have a mushroom mug right here.
That's so cool. But I just laughed because like I was this like straight edge cookie cutter, like leading a church. And here I am, like mushrooms is my first thing. I don't know, it's just funny. Psychedelics. But I became such an advocate because of someone with my history of depression and anxiety and medication. That was a really hard year, mentally and hormonally, of course, with when I was going through that dark night of the soul. And I mean, gone. Like I'm telling you, has not come back ever since I went through that larger mushroom trip and then did microdosing for a few months. Well, come to find out, there's documentaries, How to Change Your Mind, Michael
Yes.
Pollan, if I'm saying his name right.
Yeah,
And of course,
on Netflix, everybody.
so good. You guys got to watch it. And then all the major universities are studying all the psychedelics right now.
It's an amazing time to be alive.
It's awesome. I am so encouraged. So I've only done a few, like I said, larger trips, but that is a way if you have an intention. I think I told you about my last one when I was in Vegas. It's so powerful. And it was a really great way to reconnect me with the divine out here and in here. Like, is it really out? I don't know. Out and in? Oh,
That's a good question.
It's so good. And then
tell me more about like we got time. Tell me about that experience.
oh my gosh. So that was my second one. And I can't wait to do one in the land that we live on, by the way, now. That's what I'm really hoping for. This last one was in a public setting with tons of tourists walking around. So don't recommend that, but it was still really powerful. Definitely am ready for like walking through the woods, being near a tree or water trip. But this one was at a psychedelic place called Meow Wolf, if you guys are familiar with. Do you have those in Canada?
We don't, but so it's like a place for psychedelic assisted therapy?
No. So in Vegas, and there's a few throughout the country. I think Santa Fe, New Mexico has one, maybe Colorado. There are art exhibits that are interactive, that are psychedelic vibes. Like look it up later. They're super
You did
cool.
tell me about this. I remember Meow Wolf.
Yeah. So I thought, I used to joke with people that walking through is like a psychedelic trip without the drugs. And so can you imagine being on it? There's like third eye vision. I mean, it's trippy. It's trippy
Wow.
just to walk through. So yes, it was very loud and busy, but we found this room that my husband has done a trip in called the womb room. He calls it the womb room because of like the fabric hanging from the ceiling and this heartbeat going over and over.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's so like, I don't know, it's kind of powerful. But for me, the second time, once the heaviness in my body, I was able to start walking again. I forgot about that part of the experience. We were able to find the womb room and I was done panicking, like, where am I? It just throws you off for a hot minute. And I closed my eyes and I went in. It was just amazing. I mean, if you've done it, it's hard to put to words, but the messages I was receiving and the things I was able to see about my life and God and anxiety and purpose were fascinating and beyond me. And it just felt like I was being held by God, but it was like female God. It just felt like this warmth of a mother holding me and like presenting me with this warm honey glow of an experience that I needed. I was just covered in love, covered in so much love and pureness. So yeah, there's, different avenues I went on,
Wow.
but
It's
so
really
good.
beautiful.
I
I
wanted to
had
stop, like tears going through my eyes. It felt so good.
a
Yeah.
really potent release, and like I had a really beautiful experience. I did one hero dose with my husband as well. And yeah, like they talk about in that documentary How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It's on Netflix, like you said. People use it for PTSD. People use it for terminally ill diseases that are like our society is so afraid of death because it's just not talked about, and we know so little about it. But I feel like one of the medicinal aspects of psychedelics like that and plant medicine, mushrooms in particular, I can speak on because I did it. Um, for me, I could almost like feel or see this like wave of like everything I'd ever worried about, every like limiting belief I'd ever had, every just all the things I'd ever worried about, just like as tiny little particles, like a wave coming up and then just being like washed away. And so
So
it's
cool.
like oftentimes people only need one dose because it just gives you that like reality check. As funny as it is, you're like, actually, you go to another world where I'm not sure if you are
Literally.
able to see other dimensions or you perceive that like what's going on. We don't know. But
Cool.
it really allows you to like, yeah, reframe your life here and your meat suit and your what is energy, what is life, what is soul in a way that's just so cool. And if you do it in a good way, it can be so healing and medicinal. So yeah, I'm grateful to talk about that. And I love that you had that come to God moment. I definitely did too. I had the like, oh, every thought I've had did take me here.
Yeah.
I felt the veil was quite thin. I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
isn't it. I was like, there's a lot more. This is
Mhm.
just one part of it. And it really did actually make me fear death a lot less. I was quite afraid of death before. Um, I
Yes.
want one question. Do you want to talk anything else about that, or that was a really nice little story tell?
I can talk about mushrooms for like 5 hours. So let's
Yeah.
that was great. Thank you.
Wow, what a time. What a time to be
I
alive.
know. I know.
You said something earlier about how much you felt like just as part of your limiting beliefs you had of like, I don't even think I can do this, motherhood. I don't think I
Yeah.
can do this. And I see that a fair bit in women, um, women that are just feel like they aren't either equipped or ready. And my answer is kind of always like, no one's ever ready. Like, no one's ever ready. You just aren't. Like, you read every book you want. You're not ready until you do it. It's part of the
Sure.
initiation. So I want to know, um, what do you have to say to women who don't think they can do it?
Mm. Oh man. That it will be, this is a weird thing to say. It will be the best thing that ever happened to you. If you lean into that vulnerability and like surrender to the the rebirth, the portal of motherhood, it will
Mm,
be the best thing that ever happened to you. My joke with motherhood is always want to like jumpstart 10 years of, or like jumpstart like hijack 10 years of therapy or whatever. I'm saying it wrong.
Personal
Like
growth, personal growth.
personal growth. Thank you. Become a mom. But it is the greatest gift. There's so much that you can do if you are pregnant and having those thoughts to like help prepare your heart, mind, and soul. And birth is the initiation. Like you can do some prep work, some inner child healing, some work with your partner. So for that too. That's part of the vision I have for my company and just what I want to talk about in general. You can be intentional and conscious leading up to conceiving, leading up to birth. Please, America, please, Canada, please, world, like be more intentional and conscious. And if you were like me and were like, holy cow, here we are, don't feel equipped. Again, like lean into that and gather the mothers, gather the support. And it's really this journey of going to, I call it the depths or the ends of yourself where you don't think you can anymore, but then the wellspring shows up. And this inner resourcing that is part of the journey for women who specifically don't think they can. You find it, you just find it within you, and that is building you up. And it's this new muscle, and it's this whole new level of resilience and grit that you were here for. I think you're here for it. That doesn't mean, I know that not everyone wants to be up, like genuinely is like, no, it's not for me. But if there's a part of you that's like, interested, but I don't feel equipped, like, hold on, let's
or fear is limiting. Yeah.
Fear, like, talk to me, call me, like, talk to people that, well, and that's why I think more moms need to talk about their reservations and their unequippedness that they felt too, because if we just see women that are like, motherhood's all I ever wanted, and here I am rocking motherhood, it doesn't create a safe space for other women to come forth. And so we're at higher levels than ever of women couples rejecting parenthood. And that's a great disservice. So we need to talk about, or we just talk about the shit. That's why I was like, this is the best kept secret. I still can't believe I say that. And now it's what I want to, do with my work in the world and just with women in general. But just like shout this message from like a mega box or something, like, you are capable. You can get support around you, whether it's through postpartum trained therapists or other mothers or going to mother circles or like doing inner child healing. It's the best thing that will ever happen to you, and you need it. It's going to refine you, just like religion can, spirituality and mushrooms, like motherhood's the path to your most radiant life.
Motherhood is the path. And it's just like a forever unfolding, and like even we are mothers, we have children, but we are forever entering unknown territory. Right? It's like, sure, I can talk about babies. I know a lot about babies. Do I know about teenagers? No. And every kid is different. And so like everyone is just whatever path you're on, you're just becoming. But yeah, the juice and the life-giving and the challenge, it is everything. It is fully yin yang. It is as beautiful as it is challenging. It is as rewarding as it is, taxing sometimes. But what's the whole point of this?
It brings a whole new level of depth to life. And like, what are we here for? And the equipped part, I just want to name, it's so important as mothers, as humans, to like check the stories in our head. What does that mean? What does equipped look like to be a mother? Like if you were to pull out the threads and like write them down or speak them out, would they dissolve right in front of your eyes? Would you laugh at them? Would they bear weight in truth? And so I think that that's a huge component. And that's what I like to do with women pre-pregnancy and like, whether you're like, I'm a bad mom because of, like, what do you mean? What does that mean to be a bad mom? Like, let's unpack that shit. So it's not just this beautiful, like, I do believe you're going to surprise yourself in motherhood if you feel unequipped. I do believe it's going to you're just going to be met with the grace that you need to get through each stage. And what if you are unequipped? Like, what if it's all just a lie? And what if the pressures that you've put on yourself, because I have a lot of women that work with me that are like very much similar to me, like firstborn daughters, pleasers, A types. They have such a high standard that they just feel like they can't live up to that within motherhood because they carry the sanctity of life so highly. They're like, I'm not equipped because I'm imperfect. So hence the Imperfect Moms Club or walking alongside women. What if the purpose is to lean into your imperfection? What if that's what your children are here to like let you release this like baggage, all the things. So it's okay. It's okay to feel unequipped. That doesn't mean you're not capable.
One thing I tell my kids, being afraid is just an opportunity to be brave.
Oh, I love that. That's a good one.
And I really like what you touched on, allowing your children to be your teacher, to be your healer. And one thing I say on this like kind of topic is that you really do heal through your children, and you will be faced with times where you remember how something went in your childhood, and you will either take the path that your parent took or you will choose a different path in that like moment, in that moment of intensity sometimes, or conflict or whatever. And you'll be like, okay, I can actually remember feeling this way as a kid, and it felt like this. And I did feel seen or I didn't feel seen. How can I choose differently in this moment? And when you choose differently, when you decide to be like, I'm just gonna hug you and hear you rather than fight you on this one, you also heal yourself. You heal your inner child by like witnessing your child and loving them and choosing a different path. And it might not even be, you won't know what's right or wrong. Like my husband and I are always like, what's gonna land? Like, what are they gonna say about us in 20 years? Like, are they gonna remember the good stuff? You don't know. But like, it is an opportunity to love yourself and love your children and
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
continue to be brave and learn. It's a huge learning thing. And yeah, I can't say, and
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing to feel like a sensitive topic. And I'm grateful to be able to talk about this with you because I know there are women who are trying to conceive,
Mm,
and in that pre-baby zone, and that's a really emotionally loaded zone. And I just see you. I see
sure.
you in that. And that's its own type of mental hell and anguish. And I just think that anyone who wants to have children, I always wish that they get to. That's my huge wish for everyone. And the women who feel scared, it's okay to feel scared and do it anyway. And
Hmm.
yeah, you know what? Another way, like I reframe kind of when things feel like impossible or just too much, I'll just think of my ancestors, and
Yeah.
I think of the women who had 10 fucking kids in a one house, no electricity. And I'm like, wait, what am I bitching about? Wait a second. And like that, they made you. Your ancestors made you. They are in you. You are a fractal of them. They are a fractal of you. And those people who had all those hardships and all
Yeah.
those challenges and talk about equipped or not, you know,
Right.
you know,
You can
like
do
just
this.
think about your ancestors and allow them to fuel you, allow them to give you insight.
That's
Um,
beautiful. Make a
you,
little altar during your pregnancy or like during your conceiving, like maybe you can add ritual and like pulling on
mm,
that strength ahead of time. And then
oh,
even at birth, you know what I'm saying? I did that. It helped me with my home birth, my second. I was like, I had some art, but I had one of them was like envisioning the women who have gone before me, which millions and billions that have had births and babies. And I was like, I can do this. And I was like pulling on their strength to like bring this baby to
yes,
the world. So there's so
that's
many
so,
little hacks and ways to.
that's so beautiful. I love that you did that. I want to hear more. I want to give you the opportunity to speak about your vision, your offerings.
Hmm.
What are you doing?
Oh, this is just like you're stirring up a lot inside me and making me think about many things. So, just loving the conversation.
Me too.
So, yeah. Right now, I am in the process of releasing my website's out, but like releasing it in phases because it's like done is better than perfect. Like let's
Yep.
just not wait until you have the full blown mission and vision. Like let's just get it out. So I am accepting one-on-one private coaching clients with, I do either one session with moms or a longer journey that's more of the transformation. I like to offer both because I find that moms like some either are like, what's coaching? I don't know that I want to commit financially or time-wise. So like maybe busyness or craziness or whatever. So like they want to shift. They want to be seen and held, work through something. I mean, the things that I center on around identity, conscious parenting, self-compassion, self-discovery, authentic living. So like typically the mom comes to me because of that or pregnant, or you can do a longer journey where we dig in a little deeper. It's not for the faint of heart, but we go there. And through that process, I really think motherhood, part of that radiant life, is like, let's remember who you are and who your kids, through the portal of motherhood. What if your kids are an invitation to reconnect with your values and your capital T true self, because you see their true self, oh my gosh, all the time, right? In their infancy and their toddlerhood, and watch them grow. So it almost inspired me to like, who am I? That rediscovery, that identity. So we go there. And I think that a lot of the stress and guilt and shit is like breaking away all the truths of who you thought you had to be and remembering who you are through your children. So we talk about values. We talk about what would authentic motherhood look like to you. And ultimately, we talk about triggers, and what are your kids teaching you? And there's, themes each week that build, but meeting you where you are, But ultimately, the goal through the coaching or my Instagram posts or coming on a podcast is freedom and liberation for moms. And it moves me to talk about, because when mothers are free, the family feels that, you feel the tension of a mother who's stuck and angry and hurting. And so when a mother is liberated, like society is, I think that we are such the heartbeat of the world. And so in this small little way of like podcasts and posts and coaching, or my mom's club that I'll be launching in St. Louis, Missouri, where I live, physically, because I'm like, we need to gather in person. I do love the online space, and maybe I'll do a virtual something, but we need to gather the mothers. And so that's where freedom and liberation happens, through the podcast, through storytelling, through these spaces. So that's my bigger vision, is liberation of mothers through the spaces I create and the conversations I have with them.
That's so beautiful. I absolutely love that. And I think that is such a valuable journey to be on, and one that is needed. These are conversations that we need to have. And you are doing that with your Unmasked Motherhood podcast, where you're like, okay, let's get like the surface, who are you? And then let's go deeper and hear your journey. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what your podcast journey's been like for you too?
Oh my gosh, like starting the podcast, or when you...
Yeah, like what are your takeaways, like how that's what it's been about for you?
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to do one, just side note, for 10 years. So for the mom or the person listening that's like afraid, the lesson you taught your kids, what would it look like to be brave? Like there was a pull for so long. I love storytelling. I love talking to people and hearing their wisdom, their journey. And I know that it leads to freedom when we share the unspoken things inside us, or we share a piece of our heart for the world or for 10 people. It is liberating. So doing that was like an act of self-love, because it was like this thing I'm holding inside me, like, do it. No. I'm like, oh, I could breathe, because I finally just gave it a chance without thinking it's going to be the next hit. I'm like, just do it, because it's an act of self-expression that you need to bring into the world. And you love people and you love mothers. So let's have the moms talk. So that was just a cool act of like faith, of like following that,
Yes.
And then, oh my gosh, through it, I primarily have the moms on, but I'm going to do some more solo podcasts coming up. But it's the theme that I say over and over again is like we're all more alike than we're not alike. And we need to know that because there's so much isolation and mom guilt and like you'll hear the thing you need to hear through each woman's story. You may not relate to everything, but you'll hear something that you needed to hear. Or the permission slip or the
Yes. Ooh, yeah.
pause, the remembrance, the mess, to know you're not alone, right? That is the big heart. So that keeps coming up again and again. And I think it's just such a gift to witness another person's story. And so I always hold it with reverence. Like when you came on and you opened up about your journey and your heart and your passion, it just felt like a gift to hear your story. So it's been a blessing. It's been a journey. And my hope and my heart is that we can all feel a little more freed or maybe share part of our story through this. But yeah, it's about connection in a disconnected world that is more connected than ever. How can we bring back connection? Well, through the art of storytelling. So that's the heart at its core, but for the mothers, one story at a time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There's so many nuggets you just even said in there, like the permission slips that come with having these conversations and being like, I didn't know I could be messy. I didn't know I could be imperfect. I just spoke at a beautiful event, and Julie, who was this one of the hosts and creators of the event, she just really like started off this empowering women's event with just being like, we are all imperfect. I just need to remind you. And it's one of those things where it's like you hear it, but just hearing it again and affirming it and being like, we're all showing up here, we're all doing our best, and we're all imperfect. Can't say that enough, especially when, yeah, like both you and I are those eldest daughters who have the people-pleasing tendencies. And
Fair enough.
like you referenced the moms on Instagram that only show like the highest highlight reel, and how toxic that is actually for the psyche of motherhood. It's like show the messy stuff. It's okay to be messy. Show the beautiful stuff, but know that the
Mhm.
humanity of being a mother and um or when you have, yeah, children are a lot, and if you're outmanned, it's another thing too.
Mhm.
um
Yeah, it's a lot. The performative culture, whether or
Performative.
not you're performing, it's like you feel it collectively. Um, and it can be soul crushing and really defeating for certain people, depending on the season of life you're in. And everything about motherhood is constantly vulnerable, whether
Mm,
you're pregnant, postpartum, going through a major transition, whatever. And so it's almost like it can be harmful to just see that. And so I even know this stuff. Like I know that it's a facade, but I still find such like deep relief and I see another mom like getting off her pedestal on Instagram.
can you say that whole sentence
Oh,
again? It just kind of
yeah.
glitched out.
Oh, yeah. I can even know that like Instagram and social media is a facade. And I still find such relief when a mother that I follow pulls back behind the mask, unmasking motherhood, when they just like share more of their real, raw, messy. I'm like,
They're
oh,
messy.
it allows me to breathe, even though I know that like it's some of it's a show, even though it's pure. I love the real.
Yeah.
I'm here for.
And it is hard to show it, like, because the embarrassment and shame are, at the forefront of showing you're messy,
Oh
and you
yeah.
don't know if you're going to be accepted, or you're like, I don't know if anyone else is this messy. Like,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
but I just think like I for sure, I for sure am messy, and like my house
Uh,
is like right now, like the state of my living room down there. We just came home from camping. It's such a mess, but I want to have this conversation and I also want to keep going with this stuff. So I always talk about being like, yeah, my house looks like this, but I have to work out. Yeah, there's just priorities, and like it's so important to tidy up. I 100% agree, and I do that too, but there's so much messiness that you have to make space for and allow imperfection to just also be safe and normal.
yes. like, yes. And like with this conversation about social media and like sharing and being vulnerable, maybe social media isn't the place for you. Like you have to do what feels safe in your system. Maybe you just share a little bit, like, but there's no pressure to go
No.
on and be like, I was a mess today. I've had to, I love being vulnerable and like to a fault oversharing. I don't know, give or take. What do you want to say about that? Because
Same.
I know that it can liberate others. It liberates me to say it and just to like be met in that. And then I also am like, oh God. So you can have that vulnerability hangover. So my
Totally.
safe space has been a little bit trickled out on social media. Of course, I call a mom friend if I'm in a shame spiral. Or what I've decided to use as far as my sharing is obviously within my circles, my mom community that I lead, but on my newsletter. So I had to find like a safe place for me to share those things to not just this whole audience of social media. That felt like a threat to be
Mm,
exposed to that much, you know. But then through my newsletter, the people that are like actively choosing to show up and hear me. So I'll share
yes.
about like going cuckoo on my toddler, my 6-year old, while my mother-in-law was watching, and then she called me out later. Like I'm sharing these stories of like what I've learned in my messiness, but there. So it's cathartic, and we need those stories. So find the places that you can share them and that you can hear them.
Great permission slip.
Yeah, thanks.
I feel like this has been just such a beautiful, juicy conversation. I want to leave it in this high
Mm,
concentration form. If there's anything else you want to say, where can people find you, please?
yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. So the place that I hang out online is primarily Instagram. I'm kind of like there a couple times a week, and then I might take like 3 to 7 days off. There's not consistency, and that's okay. But I consistently will show up every month, but not, every day. So my Instagram handle, I don't know if you'll share it here, but it's underscore reclaiming underscore motherhood. And I also have a newsletter. You can find my newsletter if you want to hear those messy stories or encouragement for your motherhood journey through my Instagram link in bio or my website. And that's the other part I'll share is reclaim-motherhood.com is my website, reclaim-motherhood. So you can learn more about working with me, joining the Moms Club if you're in St. Louis, or joining my newsletter. Yeah.
Amazing. You're doing such good work out there. I just want to virtually hug you and I just celebrate you, cheer you on, and I see your full light in this world, and I thank you for sharing it.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank
You're
you,
so cool.
angels. Thank you, everyone, for
I
tuning
appreciate
in.
it.
This has been a really beautiful episode. I'm grateful to have people who are tuning in to this type of messaging and conversation. Sending love to you all. Where you'll find me is on Instagram, mainly Alex Troniak. And yes, until next time, wishing you all blessings and thank you again, Beth. Have a wonderful day.